Ducati star Marc Marquez admitted he pushed too hard to win the 2025 German MotoGP sprint race. Starting from pole position, Marquez had to fight back from 5th after running wide at turn 1. He regained the lead on the final lap to win his 10th sprint of the season and extend his championship lead to 78 points. Marquez said the lack of tire temperature early in the race made him consider just finishing on the podium, but he managed to push further ahead after a few laps. Of course, that first corner made things difficult, especially because the first 2 or 3 laps were uncomfortable for me, he told MotoGP.com. I struggled with tire temperature, and that also led to the mistake in the first corner. I came in and saw that my bike was locking up a lot, moving a lot, and I decided to go wide, losing some positions but staying in the race, which was the most important thing. The first 2 laps I struggled. I said, okay, today it's time to finish outside the podium. But then at one point the tires were at the right temperature and I started to feel the bike. I felt the transition with the bike, and then I started attacking, maybe a little too much. Because now we're happy, but second place would have been enough. But my instincts told me, try to win, Marc Marquez said with a laugh. Marc Marquez then added, as I said, today is a day to think about the championship. For that reason, today, even though I finished second, I felt it was enough, for example. I tried to control everything by not being reckless. I tried to train myself to control everything, but sometimes we just have to try to follow our instincts, said Marc Marquez, quoted from Crash.net. This impressive result made Ducati boss Domenicali very happy, and he celebrated with Marc Marquez again after the race. On the other hand, Pecco Bagnaia could only finish 12th, 20 seconds behind Marquez, who was on the top step of the podium. This was a very bad result for Bagnaia. Rain and problems with his bike left him even further behind his teammate Marc Marquez. Bagnaia's continued poor results have Ducati boss Claudio Domenicali increasingly worried. However, the Italian team's boss can do little to help Pecco Bagnaia. Bagnaia's situation is very worrying. I don't know what's going on. We at Ducati have done everything we can. When it comes to Pecco's lack of sensation, we've brought them some new chassis to give them something different and hopefully suit him. But Pecco keeps complaining about things that are too big, like things that aren't going smoothly for him. This is very sad. We don't know what else to do, said Ducati course boss Claudio Domenicali. VR46 rider Marco Bezzecchi nearly claimed his first MotoGP sprint victory for Aprilia, but was overtaken by Marc Marquez on the final lap of the wet race at the Sachsenring. Bezzecchi made a very good start from the front row and led for most of Saturday's 15-lap race. Today was very good, Marco Bezzecchi told MotoGP.com. First time on the front row with Aprilia, in a sprint race. Fighting with Marc on the final lap was also fun, although unfortunately I lost. But I can't complain. Of course, a lap earlier I was much happier. But we did a good job, and honestly, I didn't expect to be so fast in these difficult conditions, said Aprilia rider Marco Bezzecchi happily. Fabio Quartararo said his podium finish at the German MotoGP sprint race was a surprise. Quartararo made a great start from 7th in the sprint race and climbed to 3rd after just a few corners. Having advanced as far as 2nd, Quartararo was able to beat Fabio Di Giannantonio to 3rd, marking his 2nd sprint podium of his career. Typically, Yamaha struggles when the rain-soaked track isn't completely wet, but Quartararo noted that he felt like he could flow with his M1 in those conditions on Saturday. No, and honestly, I didn't expect to go this fast either. It felt amazing. The feeling during the sprint was incredible, much better than in FP2 and qualifying. So, it's really nice to be on the podium. I mean, we knew the first lap was going to be really good for us. I had a good feeling. But I thought I'd be behind lap after lap. And honestly, I kept a pretty good pace, and that was surprising. But because of the pressure from Bagnaia in the last laps, I made some mistakes. But I think the conditions in the last lap were quite difficult. The weather was still a bit wet, but when some parts started to dry, we started to struggle, and electronics-wise, we were still quite behind. But I think it's quite nice to feel this feeling, and especially in the wet, it's hard to feel the flow, and today I felt it, and I hope we can maintain it for a long time, said Fabio Quartararo with a smile. However, this weekend, with his Saxon King status, Marquez will unleash his attacking instincts. He will race with his natural, super aggressive style on the counterclockwise track with its 10 left-hand corners. This weekend I will be much more aggressive and attacking, said Marc Marquez, as quoted by Crash.net. Mugello and Assen, at least on paper, are not tracks that suit my riding style. We managed everything as best as possible, gradually, without overdoing it, and we brought home maximum points. However, at the Sachsenring, the situation is a little different. This track suits my riding style, and this is a point I must take full advantage of. Compared to previous races, we will be more aggressive in attacking here, Marc Marquez confidently stated. In the sprint, I struggled a bit. But on this occasion, as at Mugello, I started very strong and had a good first half of the race. Then, midway through the fight, I started to lose confidence in the front of the bike and I need to improve my speed. Sachsenring is a very specific track. We need to understand where we stand compared to the fastest riders, said Bagnaia, the defending champion from last season.